what's up and welcome to this week's video. So I am back yet again with another laptop. I've been trying to find a good laptop since I think October last year. I tried one with 2 screens. I tried the best Dell XPS and there were issues with both, or I wasn't completely satisfied. So I have now resorted to the MacBook Pro. Ow. Almost hit my chin with that. So I'll just briefly go over the top line specs and then the advantages and disadvantages that I found after I practically used it. So yeah, let's get into the video. So getting into the specs, it has an 8-core i9 processor with 1TB of storage, 16GB of RAM, only coming in at 2 kilograms, with of course a 16-inch screen, a Retina display, a backlit LED, and 500 nits of brightness. There are 4 Thunderbolt 3, which are USB-C ports, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. We have Bluetooth 5 for connectivity, which is actually pretty fast. We have a 720p FaceTime HD webcam and a studio quality microphone. So the full specs will be linked down below, so if you want to check them out, then click the link in the description. Other than that, let's get on to the advantages after I practically used it. So the design, firstly, to look at, it looks absolutely beautiful. Thin, premium. It's the best laptop that I've ever laid my eyes on. So secondly, the Retina display looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's not as good as the Dell XPS 4K display, but it is still pretty damn good. I mean, you can't really complain. Also, most things aren't really in 4K. There are very few videos out there, so the majority are not 4K. So I guess it doesn't make that much of a difference to me. But if you're somebody who regularly edits or, you know, shoots 4K videos, then that might be an issue for you. Oh, and also there's no screen flickering, which is always a plus, which I found with both the Dell and the ASUS. So thirdly, the overall speed is absolutely amazing. It's super fast. I haven't been sort of frustrated by its speed on any occasion. In fact, I used Final Cut Pro recently to edit one of the previous videos, and I found that it exported the footage so fast. Final Cut Pro didn't even crash once. So, I mean, there's nothing to complain about there. So next, this MacBook has the Magic Keyboard, which is apparently an improvement from the previous keyboard, which I think was a butterfly keyboard. My brother actually has the older MacBook, which literally came out like a couple of months before this MacBook. So I feel like he got a bit shortchanged, to be honest. So people complained a lot about that previous keyboard because it had virtually no travel and it didn't really feel like pressing down a button. So I've tried that and I've tried this, and to be honest, they're both pretty good. I mean, keyboards are one of those things that the more you use them, the more you get used to them. So I feel like even if I had that keyboard, after a while I would have been used to it. So I guess it's just a personal preference, but I know some people really strongly hated the butterfly keyboard. The next key feature, which I found somewhat useful, is the Touchbar, which I believe is exclusive to Apple MacBook Pros. To be honest, practically speaking, I don't use it that much, just because it has very similar keys to what you would have on a normal keyboard. So of course I adjust the brightness with it, I can take a screenshot, all of that kind of stuff. But it also has, you know, shortcuts like the home page, going back if you're browsing the web. But I don't really use those keys because I use the trackpad to kind of swipe back or forward, and I find that that's much easier and quicker rather than having to manually go and tap the touch bar key. It just depends what you use it for, but it's definitely a cool additional feature to have. So now onto the trackpad. Now, whoever came up with this idea to make the trackpad huge deserves some sort of raise or promotion, because I didn't know that I needed a trackpad this size until I actually used one. I think every laptop should have a trackpad this size. You can use it at different angles and it works seamlessly, you know, on all areas of the trackpad. This has become one of my favorite features on the MacBook Pro. Next, we have the speakers and mic, and bloody hell are the speakers good. The speakers on the MacBook Pro, easily one of the best speakers I've heard on any laptop. And that's not surprising given that it's a 6-speaker system with force-cancelling woofers. The microphone also is definitely the best that I've sort of used on any laptop. Apple claimed that it's studio quality. I don't know about that, but using it, it's actually pretty damn good. In fact, the sound you're hearing now is actually coming from the MacBook Pro. So how does that sound? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, they've definitely got the sound down. Now on to the battery life, which is a critical factor for most people when it comes to buying a laptop. And Apple claims that it lasts up to 11 hours. Practically speaking, and you know what, I have used it, it doesn't last 11 hours. It depends, you know, maybe if you're just browsing the web throughout the day, probably will last the whole day, given that you don't use it, you know, non-stop. I would say overall it still has a pretty good battery life, so yeah, no complaints there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the advantages. I know there were quite a few, so you can definitely tell that I am liking this laptop a lot. But now let's look at some of the disadvantages, or let's not say disadvantages, let's say areas of improvement. So firstly, I mean, it's a no-brainer. There are only 4 USB-C ports, so it's not very flexible when it comes to connecting things like your USB stick. But to get around that, I bought a dongle. So this is a fit-for dongle that I got off Amazon. It allows you to plug in your HDMI cable, SD card, USB, all the things that I need. The only issue would be that you would have to take that dongle with you. Also, back to the point of the display not being 4K, you know, you would expect for such a high-end premium device, which costs about 2,800 quid, for the display to be 4K. Also, lastly, the final sort of disadvantage you can say that I found, which actually comes with buying all Apple products, is Apple's Mac operating system. Now, this is just a personal preference, so don't, you know, take a hit on me in the comments. I just prefer the Windows interface just because I feel like it's easier to find files and things. Things like attaching files and looking for a file is just much quicker in Windows. I mean, a lot of people do agree that the Finder window and the Spotlight search and all of that stuff, it's not as good as Windows. It doesn't have Wi-Fi 6 as well, actually. I'm not sure, I think I forgot to mention that. But it doesn't have Wi-Fi 6. I mean, I don't have any major problems with the Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi 6 is, you know, definitely better. And yeah, so I'm very happy with this laptop, and I promise I won't return this one and get, you know, something else like a, what's left? There's like those gaming laptops, but I'm not really, I'm a bit of a gamer, but I'm not a laptop gamer. I play PS4. But yeah, overall, this MacBook is a great device. You know, I've used it for a longer time now, so I've used it for about a month. I haven't found even one issue, so that's always a great sign. Whereas with the others, I found some issues. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this week's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for weekly videos. And I will see you in my next video. So until then, take care.